All right, today in the garage we're going to be putting on the front bumper. This is a front bumper chrome conversion from the 1977, which was a rubber bumper. I'll have a couple of pictures of that here so you can see what it used to look like. So before we fit the bumper on, I want to go over some of the modifications that you need to get to this point. So in the front with the rubber bumper, there was a sort of a square bracket. This would have been extended up about this high and connected to this frame member here. And so you have to cut that off, and then you have to close this frame member. So you can see how I've gone at a diagonal here. When you cut it, you don't want to cut it flush. You want to cut it back a ways because you need to have this mounting area for the grill when you put the grill in. So just FYI, this is the methodology that I used for adapting those frame members. Again, you want to cut even with this plane right here on this frame member. And then you need to cut this piece back about, I'd say about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. You can go a little further back. It wouldn't hurt to have more mounting bracket space for that grill when it goes in. The other thing you have to look at is on the rubber bumper, there's a light that goes right here. So there's a little bit of body work that needs to be done. And when you do the body work to plug these holes, whether you put a new hole in there to match the blinker, which I'm not putting in, I'm just going to use the side blinkers, or if however it is that you decide to do that patchwork, what I highly recommend is to buy a new apron, because when you start moving the metal around, either through welding or cutting it or whatever you do, this can become deformed, and then the apron won't fit at all. So what I ended up doing, you learn from my lessons, I had tried to salvage the old apron and weld it all back, and when I tried to put it all back together, it didn't match up. So I ended up buying a new apron. I'll put the part number in the description, and making some minor adjustments to that so the holes will match up. And then after that apron is on, go in and do the body work for this plug right here. So those are the major modifications that you need to think about when you do the chrome bumper conversion. Obviously, the chrome bumper didn't have a grill, and we'll go over later on in the video how to install that grill. And there's a lot of options, aftermarket options for different kinds of grill, whether you want to do a honeycomb or a slatted grill. There's a lot of options in there, so you can pick whatever aesthetics that you like on that. So the next thing to talk about is parts. Obviously, buying a bumper is just a part. It's a single part. But there is one component that you need to source. If you buy the bumper kit at Moss, it'll come with this bracket. You can't go to Moss and buy this bracket. You can call them up and special order it, but it's way too expensive because they don't like to break that part out from that kit. But I found a source online over across the pond. I'm here in Texas, and I found a gentleman that had brand new this bracket. This is not, I probably would have otherwise thought to fabricate it, but this is spring steel. It's a bumper. If it gets bumped, you want this to give a little bit. So this spring steel here will give a little bit of flex, so you don't have to constantly do body work every time you touch something with your bumper. So the thing that you'll notice on here is that there's 2 bolts. Those bolts are on the top on this side, and so they're basically going to be on the top, and they're going to match up with that square piece. But if you can see, 2 bolts, 1 hole. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is line this thing up and orient where we're going to have to drill a hole into this part of the bracket right here. So let's go ahead and get started with that. All right, so on this component, this bracket, you can see on here, one of the bolts is welded on. So that really makes it a lot easier to install. And the other one has, well, it has a hole right in there. Now that's going to match up with this frame piece. When you're looking at it from the top, you can see this frame piece goes kind of like a U shape going right through here. So you can see there's a flange up here at the top, and then at the bottom there will be a hole. So we need to make sure that we have it so that when we put a bolt in there, we're going to have room to put a nut on the back side. Or if this case, and I want to put the bolt through the back, make it easier to bolt on from this way, whichever way I want to do it, I want to make sure that I can get a wrench in there. We don't want it to be too close to the down wall right here. So that's just a consideration. All right, so this is a slot, and it allows you to move the bumper up and down. So, you know, making adjustments is a kind of an important thing because devil's in the details, right? Also, you'll notice the hole is a little bit bigger, and we're going to put a washer on the back, but that also helps you to make, you know, minor little adjustments and to make all these components all kind of match up. So when I'm going to measure this, I'm going to measure it in the middle, and then I'm going to drill the hole big enough so that I can get it not to have interference with this inside wall right here. All right, so here's the bottom. Okay. If I put this on the bottom and I look across the top here, I may have to cut this a little bit because it's sitting on that right there. So we'll call this the bottom right here. The bottom edge of that hole will be right here. And then the top will be right up here. So now you see how we got the bottom and the top of this hole. There's the dimensions that we need to play with. All right, so let's get a drill on here. We're going to drill the top hole to meet so that the top edge of that hole doesn't, it will lose that hole, because obviously we're tracing the inside of a hole. So we can lose that mark and do the same thing on the bottom. That'll give us something akin to what we have on this side. All right, moving forward. Well, that's a good start. I'll clean it up with a file and then get on to the next one here. You can see at one point I was drilling straight to get a pilot hole. These drill bits have a little center punch that goes in, makes a little pilot hole. I don't know if you can see that. And a little center punch. But then once I got going, you might have noticed I started drilling it like this. And the idea behind that was I didn't want it to fall off into the big hole. It did that once, but you want to get your momentum leaning on one side of the hole so that it doesn't, you know, slide up into the other hole once you start going. And so I think we accomplished that. I'm going to go ahead and start filing on this, and then we'll move on. All right, I'm happy with that. Let's move on to this one. All right, at this point, all the drilling and filing and metalwork is complete. I was lucky enough not to scratch any of the paint. One quick note. So I was earlier mentioned whether or not this screw was going to go this way or this way. Well, if you look at it, if you go a little further back in there, put this in here. It's too deep. Anyway, there's another piece of metal back in there that prevents you from putting the bolt in from this direction. So it's going to have to go that way. There is room. You can reach it from back here to put nuts and washers on, so that won't be a problem. And you can even get a box wrench in from this hole right here, so that won't be a problem. So quick little hack. Before I move on to the next phase here, we want to control all these metal shavings that are all around. So what I got here is a couple of magnets. These are permanent magnets, and if you put them inside of a rag, you can go around your workpiece and collect any shavings that have gotten up on the work surface. Work around the work surface, any of the shelves, anything here. If you leave metal shavings around, they're going to rust. It'll get caught, may not get cleaned up. So just you want to mitigate that by grabbing them with a rag with a magnet in there. And you can see over here on the floor, you can just grab everything with a magnet. See how it just grabs it up for you. That way you're not going to get it in your knees or any of the material that you might lay down. You don't want any of it to get scratched with any of these metal shavings. But by using a rag between your magnet and the stuff that you're picking up, you can see all the stuff I picked up here. All you need to do when you take it over to the garbage is fold the rag over, and then you can pull your magnet out and it won't be all stuck full of stuff. So it's a quick little hack. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start assembling. All right, so there we go. We got them on nice and snug. They're not bolted or torqued down. They're just snug. I can bang on this up and down, and it'll slide just a little bit, so I'll be able to get whatever adjustments that I need on there. The next thing up is to connect these nicely chromed bolts onto the bumper. And so the bumper is curved, right? So these little adapters here you put inside the bumper, and that gives you a flat surface for these nuts to connect down onto. So when you connect these up, basically what you'll have is this will go through the bumper, and you'll see this from the outside. This will be on the inside of the bumper, and then everything connects right here like that. And so that's how the connector will go. But that only connects there's 3 bolt holes on the bumper, and the third one is a little bushing that goes onto an adapter, and you'll put that on to marry up with the fender valance. So the rubber goes on like this, and you have a bolt that goes through here, connects this rubber onto the valance, and then this just like before, connects to the bumper, and everything's happy. So I'm going to go ahead and place the bumper. It's kind of a two-hand job here. And by using the buckets, you don't have to worry about wrangling it. You can just set it up on a bucket where you think it's about where it's supposed to be, and then you'll be able to have something to help hold the bumper so it's not unwieldy for a one-man job. All right, I'm going to go get started on installing these, and I'll break in and show you where I'm at as I progress. It'd be nice if everything would just bolt together and it would be like just doing an erector set. This side over here appears to be lining up. All the holes are lining up. Everything's looking good. But on this side over here, you see we're off probably about an inch, maybe a little bit more by the time it commutes the distance along the run of the bumper. I've done some measurements. I looked underneath. The angle of this bracket is equal on both sides. They're both the same angle, so it's not a defect with the brackets. So I have nothing more to deduct than that the frame on the car is a little shorter on one side than the other. And you might be able to even see it. You can see the arc goes in a little bit right here. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to have to take this bracket off. And here, let me flip underneath and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So underneath here, see the bracket's connected here. It's touching fine right here. Everything looks like it's going to connect right. But we have a bit of a space right here. And this ½ inch of space that we have right here translates to over an inch on this side. And I have a big gap. So I'm going to have to put a bend in this bracket right about here to take up, I don't know, about a ½ to 3/4 of an inch on this joint right here, so I can take this back side of the bumper and move it that way. So like I said, wouldn't it be nice if you could just bolt everything together and the screws are all working? But that's why we don't have anything tight. It's all kind of snug but loose, and you can make adjustments as you go. In this case, we're going to have to do a little bit of adaptation. Like right in here, I think I'm going to put a bend just to take up that 1/4 of an inch or that 3/4 of an inch that I need right here to pull that back in. All right, so off we go to the anvil. Okay, there you have it. Just a minor little dent. Just bent this little thing just a little tiny bit just to get that extra tolerance that I needed. Now, I don't know what it was, whether it's the frame or this bracket right here, or who knows. It's a customization, so you have to be ready to make those little adjustments. Now the other thing is, I thought this was spring steel, but based on how easy it was to bend that, it only took a couple of whacks with a big hammer and it gave it up, so it didn't spring back. So this is just a standard metal bracket. I don't think it's spring steel like I thought it was. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten up all these bolts and bring everything nice and firm, and that will bring this closer so that I can put these end cap pieces on, and then we'll be done. I'll move on to the grill. All right, there we go, all bolted in. The minor adjustment there on that bracket made everything match up just right. One little problem, you can see here, this is a diagram of the Moss Motors front bumper hardware kit. Comes with everything that you need, except it has a math problem. You can see there are 6 of these, but there are only 4 chrome bumper bolts. So we're shy by 2, which means that the end pieces that go around the edge, the end bolts are going to be open. So we'll order those up, but that's not super critical. I mean, the system is installed and it's stable. I mean, good to go. Next thing up, we're going to install this this Chrome Grille. You can see we we've already been planning on that. We've already dry fitted a few times, and we know about where the connections are going to go on that. So let's go ahead and get started on that. All right, so here's the grill frame sitting in place. Here's the actual grill plates. These little, they're not exactly honeycomb, but they will go in these little slots in here, and they connect with those little hooks on the end. But what I'm doing here is I'm just laying it out to get an idea of where it's going. Now, the only place where there is a place for a connector is these 3 points right here. 1, 2, and 3. And those are all 3 on the bottom. There's nothing at the top to keep it from, falling forward or wiggling around or whatever. It's a pretty snug fit. When we did the body work, we had it, fit perfect. And then obviously when you put paint on, that makes it change a little bit. So it's a pretty snug fit. I mean, you could probably just go with it, but I'm not really feeling confident with that. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to drill a pilot hole on the top edge back in here. And then mark where that hole is, where it meets up in here, and then refit this and then put a rivet. I think I'm going to put a rivet right in there, just so I know that I feel comfortable that this thing is going to move back and forth. Just like everything, dry fit it, test it, make sure everything is ready to go before you commit. And that's what we're doing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get an idea of where there's some good material. And then I'll drill the holes on the back of these and then refit it and then mark where that hole matches up and then come back with a rivet. And then we'll put some machine screws in right here. It doesn't have to be anything too technical. And then we'll fit the grill and then we'll be good to go. So moving on. There you go, grill is installed. You can see I got these self-tapping machine screws in here, holding those into their little place. And let's see if I can get a good angle on this. See if we can get an eye on those rivets. Well, here, not looking down from here, you can see the rivet right there. There's a rivet right there. And a rivet right there. Okay. That's nice and snug. It's not going anywhere. It's very, very firm. I'm not very confident that no wind is going to blow that away or bird strikes or butterflies or whatever. Anyway, you might be asking, why did you put the grill in before putting the grill in, right? Well, part of that was because this is the angle I needed to get at with putting those rivets in there. So all I need to do now is bolt these in from the back, and Bob's your uncle. I'll take a quick picture of that and then summarize this whole process. Okay, there you go. Grill installed, chrome bumper converted from rubber bumper. This is Nigel, the 1977 MGB front bumper chrome conversion. I think I really like this look a lot better. One of the things that's unique with this one is I don't have a turn signal right here. I'm going to go with that one right there. If anybody ever gives me grief, they do sell, I say they, it's available online. There is a headlamp that you can purchase that has an LED turn signal on the bottom half down here. So if I ever get a ticket or something for not having a turn signal that's visible, then I'll just go ahead and buy those as a fix-it ticket. That'll be my solution. So anyway, this has been a really good time. If you have any questions or comments or anything, make sure you make your comments in the comment section. Please share this with your friends, and if you like the content, subscribe. It really does help. Eventually, I will be able to monetize with YouTube here, and then we can get on to the next project. So there you go, 1977 MGB chrome bumper conversion. Cheers.